Although, although in the first segment that the police taught, it was, first responder stuff was covered in there. So
Okay.
we think we're pretty well meeting the criteria for the legislation.
Great.
Looks like we lost, I think, the main room.
I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah. So we'll wait.
How's the shellfish season going so far?
It's just starting. We're just getting our algae going. We don't have any shellfish currently in the hatchery. So we've got like 2 more weeks before we bring them in and then start feeding them and
Nice.
get things going. So we get to next week go out and try and find razor clams, which we've never done before. So we're trying to figure out the best places to go, and we've got a couple clam guns to play around with.
What are you gonna do with them?
We're gonna reproduce them. So we're diversifying in our species a little bit this year. We've got blood arcs and razor clams that we're doing a couple spawns on to just see. There's some interest in the Cape and aquaculture growers and being able to grow these species as well.
Very cool. Good
Yeah.
luck.
Thanks.
Tara won't tell you, but Tara, didn't you grow blood arcs in Africa?
I did grow blood arcs in Africa, so it's been about 10 years. So we'll see. We have more technology here, so we might have better luck.
All right, enough collateral conversations. Can everybody hear us?
Yes.
We have to reboot the whole thing.
Click over.
Okay, looks like we're recording. I still don't see Jesse. Okay.
We are, for some reason, our physical camera's having some shrubs. I'll kind of work on it. Or I'll have to turn to a different camera to get everyone on camera.
Oh, nobody in here cares if we're on camera, as long as they
No.
can hear us.
Can
I'll
you
see-
see the screen okay? Like if we're sharing the
Yeah.
screen? Okay.
Yeah, we have no issues seeing you guys. We just are a black box on the screen.
Is that us and Mariah?
Yes,
Oh,
I'll deal with that too.
okay.
Who all is in the trailer?
Seth, Peter, Phil, myself, and Jeff. Seth has graced us with his presence. Live. Uh-oh.
That's just me. Keep going.
Okay. All right, we're gonna open the meeting at 1:04. Okay, the script for remotely conducted and our hybrid open meetings. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name on Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in discussion. The town, you can put that thing in front of my face. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who doesn't use a full name or act inappropriately. We're using Zoom for this meeting, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. Attendees must register. We don't register for this link. People can raise their hand button if they wish to speak. Chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. We're a little bit more free flowing in here with this meeting. That's why we get stuff done. All questions should be directed through the chair. It's a preliminary matter. This is the Harbor Plan Work Group. Want me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond to the affirmative. Seth,
Here.
Peter,
Here.
Phil,
Here.
Emily,
Here.
Dave,
Here,
Steve,
Here.
Roberto, I saw you a minute ago.
Here.
Okay, and Jesse, you're not up there? Okay, she's the only one missing. Great.
She said,
Jesse is here.
Jesse's up there?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have Sam.
Who? Oh,
Sam,
Samantha.
I'm here. I'm here too. Sorry, I don't know if you heard me before, but yes, Jesse's here.
Okay, so who are we missing? Anybody? I thought we had 11.
Yes, there you go. That's just the thing. Well, you can put the computer there if you.
Okay.
10.
I thought we had an odd number. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative, state each staff member's name. I see. Kristen,
Here.
Alan,
Here.
Tara,
Here.
Steve Mack. And I see Dak. Dak's up there.
Oh, down.
Here.
Okay, is anybody else up there I can't see?
Kim is here.
I got that. Kim. Nah, of course it's Kim.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear my name.
All right, so that's all I can't see everybody for some reason. Usually we can see them all.
Working on it.
Okay,
Lot.
still working on it. We don't have any, just we have any members of the public up there.
See them all to do gallery view,
Yeah,
so that's not gallery view, that's speaker view, I think.
yeah, if you go up to view up on the right, you can get them all up there. Don't forget that. I'm more interested about seeing everybody up on the screen. So if you go to gallery view, we may be able to get them all. Yes, there we are. Okay, good afternoon. This open meeting of the Harbor Plan Work Group is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will, if anybody shows up, feature public comment. For this Harbor Plan Work Group is convening by video conference via Zoom. Website identifying public choice. Please note that this meeting has been recorded and we have a hybrid. Be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Recording materials have been provided. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members. If anybody wants to speak, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you. State your name before speaking. Peter's doing the minutes, not the woman in California. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak to the chair. Going to establish, which isn't on the agenda, Jeff, establishment of a quorum should be on the agendas.
Okay, and there has been before, but
It is on every other meeting I'm on.
I've actually never seen it on an agenda, so
Yeah. All of mine.
that's why we just took roll.
Yeah, I know, but that's just the stupid thing. Welcome, Jeff, Tara, Reed, et cetera, et cetera. Approval of the agenda. Somebody want to make that motion?
Second.
Here. Phil, all those in favor, Seth,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Dave.
Yes, I'll just turn it.
Where did Dave go? Okay, Steve,
Aye.
I'm not sure what's going on. with that.
Roberto,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and I'm in favor. Okay. Approval of the minutes for 9/5/2023, 12/18/2023, 1/2/24. This was our last meeting. Anybody have any comments? I know, Phil, you had some we worked with Peter on before,
I thought we approved those last time.
not 122.
Oh,
We had different ones. These are like in between a lot of the other ones.
yeah, I'm not doing them again.
You're the man. Anybody have any comments about this?
Yeah, good to me. Thanks, Peter.
Anybody up there have any comments?
Only thank you to Peter.
Yeah, thankless job. All right, somebody want to make a motion to approve them as submitted?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Who seconded?
Berto.
Okay. All those in favor? Seth,
Aye.
Peter,
All right,
Phil,
Aye.
Emily,
I wasn't at that meeting, so I'm going to abstain.
okay, Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Roberto,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and I'm in favor. Okay, next thing is annual,
there were
Committee.
two other sets of minutes.
well, we did them all,
Oh, we did them all?
yeah.
Okay,
Annual committee report for FY 23, which ends last June 30th. Nothing after June 30th last year to the present is contained in the annual report for town meeting. So, discussion? Peter, you want to present that?
say it again,
You want to present that
present what?
annual committee report? We're supposed to put this in the town report.
We've already done it. The annual town report?
That's due now.
Yeah,
It was 2 months ago.
Yeah,
we
we already.
Well, sort of, that's what I thought. Why is it on here again?
it's due, no, it was due in November.
There's no
Right.
town report
I
on
don't
the
think-
February.
yeah.
5th.
We did it because I remember I had a question about it.
Where's it
Yeah,
on?
I wrote it already.
Oh, I'm on the wrong
Carol's
agenda.
probably
Yeah,
not
you're
here.
on-
No, I was at that one.
Right here.
Don't scare me like that.
I was at that, I was just looking at my old agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Let's put that over there.
I have an extra one for today.
I printed it.
We had a discussion about.
Oh, yeah,
this
I
stuff.
would-
Yeah, we did, what to put in, what to take out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Fiscal year.
that's what I thought. I'm going, wait, what?
Oh,
All right, discuss issues, and I have too much paper in here. Discuss issues and recommendations, commercial waterfront, finish that one. Kim, that's all you.
Sorry, I was muted. So we are moving on with going through commercial waterfront. So Jack was leading this section. I can share my screen, but we'll just keep plugging through these. Does that sound good, Jack?
That sounds perfect. So
And
you,
just to clarify, the stuff that you guys brought up at that last meeting when I was cleaning John's house out with the movers is already incorporated into what I printed out today.
If you printed out what I sent a few days ago, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did you end here?
we ended on the piece that's titled Commercial Waterfront, and it's got 2 columns, 2023 issues, and then suggested solutions and recommendations. We ended up, we covered number 3, and we were going to pick up today on number 4.
Where is this now?
On the back 3 pages.
It says stopped here and highlighted.
Oh, okay, got it.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
All ready? All right, so number 4. And just to remind you that the issues in that left-hand column came out from the various opportunities the public had to comment on it, and also from committee members' comments made during the committee meetings over the past year. And then the suggested solution recommendations, most of those also came from the committee or from comments that the public made. And so we've just been going through them, talking about the issue and then some of the suggestions for how to address the issue, but we don't need to be confined to the suggestions that are listed there. So number 4, need a quality waterfront facility where fishermen and other commercial users can cost effectively tie up, launch, haul out, load, unload gear, and get fuel, water, ice, and services. I kind of combine that with some thoughts about ideally in conjunction with the new Harbor Master building and Visitors Center befitting Nantucket. Those last 2 things could be considered a separate issue together, but it struck me as I was writing it that it might possibly be all one issue. In other words, the people were looking for a facility that would better support commercial users. There's some suggestions on pieces of that in that right-hand column. Expand the town pier, the land bank property at Petrel Landing next door, south side of Great Harbor Yacht Club are all possibilities where either all of that or pieces of it could be accomplished. So, yeah, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah. Linda?
Dave?
Yeah, Jack, their proposal that I'm bringing forward for the facility on the east side of the West Jetty also includes everything that you listed there in the first recommendation in the left-hand column. So in comment to your thought about with the new harbor master building, I just don't believe that physically that stuff can take place at the town pier. Some of it is, but the town pier's 870 feet long. So anyway, I'd like everybody to consider that this too could also be included in the facility that I'm talking about at the West Jetty, which would include the alternate ferry terminal, public fishing pier, a second in-town boat ramp, and this commercial facility could all be incorporated into one area.
I'll never agree. Dave, question. You know the town pier better than most of us. Would a better, stronger bulkhead protect the town pier from being destroyed every time we have a crazy storm?
Well, they just extended the bulkhead back to the north with a contract last year, which hopefully will help some of that. Plus, they're replacing the wooden docks with concrete structures so they won't be so susceptible to damage. So yeah, there's been some improvements made just literally recently this year and last year to help beating the thing up every time we have a bad storm.
Can I say something?
Peter?
And so some fishermen have told us that the extension of the end of the town pier should also go to the south.
Well, my
To protect the floating docks,
Yeah.
even though they're gonna be reinstalled with concrete and everything, there were some fishermen that have told us. Anyway,
no, I totally agree with you, Peter, and I have absolutely no idea why they did it to the north side, because the south side would protect those floating docks more. Yeah, so I totally agree with you and don't understand their logic, but I wasn't included in it.
Well, we should probably include that in our priority list or our suggestion list, is that they revisit that town pier protection.
Yep.
And give them some concrete ideas on what to do with it.
Right, any type of expansion of that bulkhead would be beneficial.
Phil?
Dave, this is Phil. Could you explain again this new, you're saying the West Jetty?
Inside of the West Jetty.
Yeah, on the east side,
The east side of the West Jetty, isn't that the channel?
Yes.
yes, and that's why this is important that I sent photographs and a write-up out to everybody with a drawing.
I did, I saw that.
Okay.
I was a little stunned when I saw that. And my
Because
stunness hasn't changed.
Neither is mine.
Dave, I never received that. If you could resend it to me, I'd appreciate it.
All right, what?
I send
okay.
it to Jeff and then Jeff will send it out to everybody.
what did you say hasn't changed?
Our opinions have not changed.
Well-
Phil and I are in the same boat, literally.
So Dave, you would put this.
What, you don't agree with it? I'm confused. I don't know what
No,
your
I'm-
opinion is.
In other words, this would be on the east side of the west jetty.
Right.
Which is right where the channel is, right?
Which would not eliminate, but reduce the large amount of dredging.
How did they turn around? In a storm, in a wind, northeast, I mean, I used to moor our boat over there in front of Johnson and Johnson's. So
How
I
does-
won't tell you how many times I had to scoop my boat up off the sand on a storm because my family wouldn't take the boat
Well-
out of the water.
But Dave, then where would the infrastructure be going into, from the,
Cars.
where would you go into? Would it be going into, the Jetty's Beach, or would you be going into
Hey.
Holbrook Avenue?
No, you'd be going into Bathing Beach Road, which
How?
encompasses two enormous parking lots. You would stage, again, I'll send this information out. I have this all written up. All of the activity would be staged on the commercial structure that would be suspended over the barrier beach on concrete abutments, identical to what they built in Oak Bluffs. It would have a breakwater on the end. That would protect the boat ramp and the launching of the boat ramp. That would be paid for in perpetuity, maintenance and construction by the Public Access Board, and also a commercial fishing pier. I'm sorry, a recreational fishing pier, which Nantucket does not have, that would also be paid for by the Public Access Board. And the second in-town boat ramp that we've talked about forever.
Dave, that is terribly, terribly shallow there. I could walk to my boat most of the time.
Well,
It's terribly, terribly shallow, and I'm not sure the Concom's gonna be climbing all over this on a joyful day.
well, Linda, two responses to that. One is, I picked a spot that would require minimal dredging. Any other place, you're gonna have to dredge hundreds of cubic yards. Second of all, the Concom is gonna have to be realistic in the fact that, A, it's been permitted and done other places. We need the alternatives. We need the flexibility. We need these facilities that we've been literally banging our heads against. When people say to me, south of the boatyard, Francis Street, Easy Street, next to the town pier, all of those have had plans and applications for funding and everything prepared and submitted numerous times, and we can't seem to move the ball. So this is an idea that may or may not come to pass, but we have to have an alternative, and this is
May I suggest we're not going to solve this problem
No.
this afternoon, but maybe,
Right.
we add it to the list, Jack. We're trying, in the right-hand column, I mean, it's
The
something.
way right-hand column.
It's
off
something
the
to,
page.
Well, you can, that's all I'm asking is for consideration and some open-mindedness. And we have two boat ramps in Mattocket, both funded by the Public Access Board. I mean, we have to come up with some alternatives. And the other locations have been exhausted.
I agree with Dave. The capacity issues on the island and demands are such that we need this facility or something like it. And so I think it should definitely be part of this plan. As he said, whether it happens or not, may or may not happen, but I think we should try. I don't see not trying as an option.
That's all I'm asking is for your consideration to include it, to investigate some of these alternatives. And when you look at the navigational chart, I've done dredging projects around here for 30 years. When you look at the navigational charts and the things that you have to consider to get a dredging permit, this location seems to be a reasonable one compared to anything in the harbor, in the town.
Do you remember where Peleg's Wharf is? On the old aerials?
Yes,
You know, it's down off of Washington Street.
right.
And there has been talk over the years, and I had to do research down on Washington Street about where it was and all this stuff related to the Great Harbor Yacht Club.
Right,
Peleg's Wharf may not be a bad place because that was a fully functioning earthen wharf, earthen rock. You still see some of it.
right.
Why shouldn't we consider that location also?
But
Was that too close to everybody else?
I'd definitely have to look at it, Linda. But I mean, I'm just trying to come up with some things for people to consider that, you know, we've just got to have more not profitable, but more, alternatives and maybe come up with some solutions.
Thanks, Dave. I just wanted to note, Sam has her hand up.
I see that up there. Sam?
Hi. For starters, I'm loving that this is a totally out of the box idea. I strongly agree with Dave that, you know, the capacity and the needs of our island, like we're so behind on keeping up with that. And yeah, it is going to need something big. It is going to need something out of the box and kind of crazy. And I know we're taking a lot of time on this topic, but I do think that this committee with such a rigorous review process is potentially the best place to get something like this to have momentum. What I did want to mention was anything like this, you know, this could take, if it happens, like I definitely want to talk about feasibility, and it'll take a long time. So I just want to be mindful of keeping an eye on the list of needs and not pinning all of them on one big solution. And what are some, in the meantime, smaller things? Like, for example, over at the town pier, there are three tie-ups that are, what sort I'm looking for, like they're transient slips. You know, is there an option for the next few years to make one of those transient slips a courtesy slip? Like, I just want to be mindful that there are a lot of things we need to address. I love this idea. I love that it would include 100% things addressed. But again, like this would take, I remember, you know, I grew up in Provincetown. I remember when that wharf was built and how long that took. And it's amazing. It addressed everything, but we still really had to keep in mind, you know, in the next 10 years, how do we address the little things?
Well, one thing about that is that when we built the extension onto the town pier and added the 45 slips, you got to remember that in 1971, when the original pier was built, there was no commercial activity allowed except at the end. So when we expanded the pier, we opened ourselves up to being able to accommodate commercial activity, which is now why you have the charter boats there and the mooring companies there and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's and now possibly with the addition of the concrete docks, which are, you know, be more more stable and more substantial, you know, there's a possibility that you could come up with a way to use the last finger as a commercial loading and offloading platform, and you would cut the distance for hauling ice and stuff, you know, and catch and everything, probably by
To the middle
half.
of the crowd, to the kids in the parking lot.
But you still you know, you still need a place for you know, the other activities, but that's certainly a possibility as a stopgap measure.
Hold the whole thing.
Madam Chairman.
Yeah, Peter.
You know, of course, speak from the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee world. I think, you know, when I first heard Dave's idea, I thought it was far-fetched as well, considering all the reviews that we would put it through right now. But I think it should be in there because we don't know what's coming. It would be an option that we might want to have, even if we never do it. You know, it'd be protected in there, between the jetties. CO2 is maybe 6 feet over sea level at best. Eventually, CO2 will be broken into pieces. Eventually, CO2 will be under the water, and who knows, maybe the jetties will extend into the harbor. We don't know any of these things. We don't know what's coming at us. You know, this could be an option. I just don't think we should write it off. It sounds a little crazy now, but you know, it could be a thing that we might want to do. And I mean, we wouldn't want to have to try and solve it right at the moment of crisis when we didn't have any ideas. We might as well throw a lot of ideas out there. So it should be included.
I think we'll have to take a vote on including this one or not. I'm in favor of everything else on this list.
But it doesn't mean that it's gonna happen.
I can't personally support it from Concom point of view, from knowing that part of the beach really, really well. And I just, in the channel and the northeast side, and how many times my boat has floated ashore and even a stiff nor'easter. I can't. And I can't put trucks and cars going through a parking lot with a bunch of kids going to the beach.
You're thinking of it in terms of right now. What I'm saying is like what Craig thinks about is in decades, longer out.
Let's vote on whether we want to include it.
Well,
May I ask a procedural question to
Yeah.
our UMass Boston folks?
talking,
This is Samantha.
Samantha, okay.
Question for Urban Harbors folks. As far as like the process of all of this, so, you know, I think first off, I think voting today whether or not to include it is too fast. I think we need more info from Dave. I would love to see the drawings.
I'll send it back out again. Yeah.
And I'm even in support of, you know, really dedicating a whole meeting of the Harbor Committee to this. It's a big idea, but we need big solutions. But procedurally, what's the process? You know, we put together a draft. It has to go to the public. How does that all work? Like, let's say we do include this as an option, and then it goes to the public and they all love it and it continues, or they don't. Like, I guess that's what I'm asking is our vote right now, where does that play out with the public?
Jeff?
I think if I may, right, I'm a big outside the box idea guy. I love it, but I think what we're really talking about is a feasibility analysis of where the second steamship authority terminal can go. And we by no means have that information in front of us to say yay or nay to this spot, because there's an environmental impact, there's an economic impact, there's a feasibility, there's dredging
Safety.
involved, there's
Safety.
is, to me, I think the goal of the plan shouldn't be to say, we're gonna pick the spot in the plan, is we're gonna set forth the procedure to determine where the best spot is, because ultimately when you're going to get permits, if it's on the inside of the jetty here, or if it's just gonna make up crazy spot, it's Pulpus Harbor, or it's Wauwinet, or wherever it is. The question you're gonna have to answer is there a better alternative? And I think there's a way to determine the best alternative to accomplish what it is. But I think you have to look at what that's gonna be, what the dredging footprint's gonna be. Is it gonna be easily maintained for the dredging footprint? Or are you gonna be maintenance dredging every year or every 2 years? But I think any spot is worthy of consideration for that feasibility assessment, as long as the goal of developing a second terminal and a boat ramp or whatever needs to be added is the goal of the study. And then we get to a result and say, that's what we're going with, because that's the best choice.
All right, let's move past this section. We're not going to get to a complete agreement, and I do agree with Jeff that we need to look at the map again and have that in front of us, and have Dave send it to Jeff and have Jeff send it out again, but we need to move past this. We could be on this one all day.
All right, can I say one more thing about this? Jeff's idea is probably what I meant. You know, a feasibility study, you know, again, we beat a bunch of locations to death, but a feasibility study of these things to be considered at this location or any other location that can be approved agreed upon or permitted. So that's probably how it should be included in the plan. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. All right, let's move past 4.
Because
All right, Linda, if I may, could I just ask one question? Embedded in that was some suggestions about what should happen at the Petrel Landing site, and that keeps coming up, and whether it has anything to do with what any improvements made to Town Pier or not. What might the plan say about the Petrel Landing site?
Fix it so people can use it.
My recommendation I sent out the other day had the Petrol Landing portion in it, and again, I'll resend that, but
Dave, send it through staff, because I didn't see it either. Send it through, everything through Jeff has to go to us through Jeff.
all right, I'll send it to Jeff, but the Reader's Digest version is, we have to do something. And I believe that the additional dinghy docks have been permitted. I may be wrong, but at a minimum, we should move forward with providing the additional dinghy dock space to relieve the congestion and dangerous situation at the Town Pier. I'll send that out to Jeff.
All right, Jesse, any update on the lawsuit on Petrol Landing from the guy next to it, up 2 doors up from it?
We just got a positive decision from Superior Court, so, it
On your
remains-
side?
Yes, but so it remains to be seen whether he's gonna, appeal that. Of course, every time, it gets less and less likely that right now his chances are slim to none on appeal. But the other thing though is that we're probably soon gonna file a Chapter 91 license, and that opens up another avenue of appeal. So we could be back to sort of ground zero with that.
Yeah, and I know him.
Unfortunately.
I know him, and he's a very litigious sort.
So, we'll see. I'll keep you updated.
Great, but at least you got one thing in your favor going on with Superior Court.
Oh yeah, we've won every single, it just keeps going up the chain and so.
Well, then it becomes, Jesse, I hate to say it, it becomes abusive process. And then you sue him for treble damages. That's the end of that story.
Well, we'll see. We'll
Because he's
see.
abusing the process at this point. Okay, number 5.
5,
The
determine
two
how
had
best
it
to
best.
move
Move forward.
forward with constructing the new Harbor Master Building.
Gotta do it, gotta have it, don't we? Didn't the town vote the money in?
Yeah, and we permitted it at the Concom like in
Yeah.
2019 or 2020, I think.
So where is that?
When
Jeff?
I met with Sheila last week, she said that the recent bids came in at $8 million.
Oh, how much
There's
did you approve?
Well,
They're still looking for additional funding as far as she told me.
So
Wow. Do we know how much that we did a vote in? Do you remember? Was it like 4 million, 5 million somewhere?
It's like,
Two.
like 3.5. Yeah.
Originally, I asked for $1 million from the Seaport Council, the State Seaport Council. I got that approved with the approval of a matching $1 million from the town. The town approved 1.5, so we had 2.5, which we felt was enough to build it. But you got to remember, that was 5 years ago, and now we're at 8 million. So the math is getting more difficult.
It's the field house all over again.
Oh, please, that's my project at CPC. Don't even put me there again.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place to bring it up, but since we were talking about a secondary ferry terminal, I just wonder if we should talk about for a second the existing ferry terminal, and the needs that, we have now versus the needs that we had in 1984 when it was first constructed. And I don't know if this is the time or if there's a separate section.
We're gonna
for that.
come to all that.
it's the next one, Jesse.
Okay, great.
So it is appropriate. I think we're just about to go there.
Yeah.
And, so this number 6 was actually was related to what Dave had been suggesting about a second commercial pier at the location near the jetty that he was talking about. And Jesse did suggest that I speak with the Nantucket Port representative to the Steamship Authority, who gave me his thoughts on that. And
Was that Rob or not?
excuse me, Nat. And then what he,
An hour, and that 2 hours or less conversation?
and then he basically though talked about the fact that the Steamship Authority within a, I suppose, 10-year period, it will be rebuilding the existing terminal, and that a lot of things could be accomplished in that rebuild that we're talking about here now. I'm not suggesting that he was saying that the idea of a redundant pier in another location might not have merit, but I think his focus was the fact that the Steamship
Remember that?
Authority was going to be investing in improving that
No idea.
existing terminal to bring it up to today's needs.
So can I say something,
Yeah.
Madam Chair? So, we are a strategy board. We're not a feasibility board here. So I think including anything that is a blue sky picture is fine, even if we think it's not permittable right now, as long as we think it could happen within the 10-year planning period. That being said, I think a second commercial pier is way outside of a 10-year planning period, just with the amount of review that would need to happen. So I think that what we need to do is instead make this goal supporting improvements, access and resiliency to the commercial pier that already exists while planning for a second pier in the future. But I think the probability of getting a second pier built within 10 years is close to zero.
I like that language, though. You want to send that language to Kim?
He's taking notes on this.
You're on it.
Like we're talking about emergencies here. One way that we can prevent emergencies, well, we can't prevent emergencies, but we can prevent lack of access by improving access, like doing resiliency projects at Easy Street, or considering alternative ways to get to the steamship through town that doesn't require Easy Street, or elevating the existing pier. I mean, whatever it is, there are ways that are going to be a lot faster than building an entirely new commercial pier. Not that I'm saying we shouldn't build a second one at some point, but I don't think it's in the 10-year scope personally.
You looking for a flyover?
I mean, yeah, there are things that could be done, but
Can I just throw in on that too, real quickly? I would just say, for everyone's reminder too, is I know we've mentioned permitting a number of times. It's not a popular option, but I think especially when you talk about a large scale public benefit option, that mitigation is also an option to just pure permitting. We've seen it before, like the Hummock Pond Road bike path had mitigation done for some wetlands that were lost for the bike path to go in. Boat ramps and piers are much grander scale, but I think that's, again, when you look at that feasibility, you're also weighing out what's it going to take to get permits, and is the need of the greater, can it be mitigated for the impact that you may be having? That's a discussion that any of the boards, whether it's Concom or HTC or whoever, will have to have. But just because it doesn't seem to fit performance standards off the jump doesn't mean that there's not other options.
yeah, I'm not even saying that. I'm just, as the projects become more and more complicated, the number of reviews increases. You're gonna need like 10 different boards, including local, state, and federal, to sign off on a project like a new commercial pier. That permitting is probably a 10-year process just for the permitting. So we could say support the efforts to start that permitting, but that's without construct. I mean, it's easily 5 to 10 years just for permitting, not even for construction. So we're already gonna be doing the next update of this harbor plan by the time the permit is even received, if it was filed today. I think we can say support the permitting process, but we really, in this 2034 plan, need to focus on the existing infrastructure more.
And so what Seth just said, I agree with it, but I think yes, the permitting will take forever, but it's important to have it in the plan so that when we update the plan again, it's in there and we carry it forward to the point where, okay, now we're seeing we need this a little bit more, and now we should get going on the permitting. But I think it should be just an idea in there. And just because we all agree that this is an idea, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that you support it happening. It just means that we agree that we were looking forward because we have to do that. And just, off the top of your head, can anyone else think of another place where this would happen, where it would be close to downtown? And no, I can't.
Legs Wharf. South of Main. Where it never has to go through town. It goes straight out, straight down Francis Street, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about dredging, Dave's trying to save us from dredging.
Well, it was a full-fledged wharf back when it was first built, way back.
Well, see, this is talk that we have when it becomes something that we're really gonna do, or a feasibility study
Yeah.
goes on. This is just an item in there that we say, okay, this is an idea. And we can even put a note in there that says, we hope to carry this forward to the next plan, because we're not nearly ready to even consider doing it.
Okay, let's move past this one also.
Number 7, need for another in-town boat ramp, which I feel you all probably agree with.
Yeah, we heard this over and over and over again from everybody at every one of these charrettes.
Right. So there were
Sorry,
some
yeah.
suggestions that were made, and I've listed them out, but maybe there are other places. Could the Steamship Authority development include a boat ramp? The site near the Coast Guard Station, end of Washington Street, next to the travel lift at Great Harbor Yacht Club. Any of those strike you as the right recommendation?
I was eating. You guys don't need to see that.
So I have a thought, if I may.
Yeah,
So I think another in-town boat ramp is ideal, but I think this actually needs to be another in Nantucket Harbor boat ramp, because the point of this is to get additional access to Nantucket Harbor. People say, oh, there's multiple boat ramps in Manicat Harbor. They're not right next to each other. They're at different parts
or to the creek.
of the harbor. So, you know, there are other places that Jeff talked about some of them, like Walden and Pulpus, that may be able to provide people access to head of the harbor and will reduce the impact on the already existing Children's Beach boat ramp. Children's Beach boat ramp. Some people just want to put in there and go up harbor. And if they could just drive to Pulpus and go there instead, then they would just do that. So we should explore all in harbor locations, not just in town locations.
Well, that makes perfect sense because you never know where it's gonna end up.
But the plan might want to make some recommendations about what you want to pursue.
I think what we should do is we should put a map of the locations that the
Public
committee
access.
and the public has created as areas of like chief public interest. And then again, an implementation committee is going to be formed who has to review those and say, based on the recommendation of these areas of interest, these ones are feasible and these ones are not. So
I think,
just have a map.
yeah, and what he's saying is that need for another in-town boat ramp, quote unquote, in-town boat ramp. I think you need to say Nantucket Harbor boat ramp.
Mhm.
And not specify in town, because in town is in the harbor, Nantucket Harbor. And that opens it up to everything that Seth is talking about. So don't be so specific in town as opposed to in Nantucket Harbor.
Even like Monomoy, Cathcart, or Shimo, where there's existing
Yeah.
kind of like sort of quasi accesses that have just been developed over time informally, could be formalized if that was a better option than one of the in-town places.
Okay. Any other comments on this one? Steve?
I had my system froze. I had one other comment just about the last section where we were talking about, this alternative stuff. Should we include some kind of language in here about hardening the existing boat ramps or looking at hardening them for future sea level rise to keep them viable?
Well, that's gonna be part of the bigger comments that we're gonna have about.
Right.
Yes.
I'm about including language in there,
Yeah.
as part of our proposal is to look into hardening existing boat ramps.
Yeah, for future impacts.
Right, that's all. I froze, so I couldn't get it in there before, sorry.
Good. And Jesse, your hand's up still? You're on mute.
Sorry, it's a comment that may not really be relevant, but I can't help but think about it when we have all these discussions and it's just like practicality of getting some of these things done when we know like litigation is going to be a major thing with putting any of these in certain neighborhoods, right? I mean, so I'm just pointing that out. That's all.
Yeah, I know. If you breathe in Monomoy's direction, you're toast.
Is there any, Jesse, is there any feasibility with that new parcel that you guys acquired in West Pulpus Harbor for a ramp, or is it just the property just doesn't suit it and the dredging would be too much?
You know, that is just so peaceful in that west corner. It's really all it's I mean, I think our thought was basically that we're having a real problem with just overwhelmed racks at the Holly Farm, Pulpus Harbor, the other one.
Yep.
And so our thought is when we do get possession of that we can divert and encourage non-motorized boats to be launching from there versus, and then that way that the dinghies, it'll open up space for dinghies for people that have their boats moored and
It's
the other
very
side.
shallow. It's incredibly shallow right there. I used to water ski in there.
Incredibly.
Fall over you down at your ankles.
It's a very peaceful corner, that west corner. I mean, I think right now that's the thinking, is that it'd be better just to sort of separate and relieve some of the pressure at the Holly Farm property.
Got it. Thank you.
And we have successfully moved on to the next one, which is more sites and facilities supporting small boat access. So we're well into that already. So Jesse's given us her thoughts on the 6-acre property in Pulpus. And then I think she also we're talking about the Holly Farm property. The fact, is there any possibility of expanding dinghy storage there, or is that pretty much maxed out?
It's pretty maxed out with the racks there now, but like I said, if we can move some of the and I think we're also looking at a sticker program. Like, it seems like a lot of people just for the summer will come and dump 5 kayaks there, and or a caretaker will drop them off for a house or something. And so how do we manage that better, at least in the interim, until we acquire get possession of the other property and are able to kind of relocate kayakers. And
We do have a sticker program for the racks in Monomoy right now.
yeah, I think the problem with that though is that if you don't have a sticker and then someone comes and they're a resident in the area is upset that somebody doesn't have a sticker and they're taking up a spot, then they call us, and our field crew in the middle of the summer is out doing something, gets a call, and they've got to go and get the boat and take it out and store it somewhere. And then a week later, the person who owns that boat calls and wants their boat back. And then we have to, go out of the field, go meet that person with their boat. It's like a kind of a nightmare management. So not ideal. I'm definitely still looking into it and doing diligence on it, but it's
All
not-
about capacity.
yeah.
How about some of these other suggestions? Expand floating docks at Town Pier, having a downtown dinghy tie up for transients, or additional commercial marina at Matticat.
A lot of this is crossover from our earlier discussion about Petrol Landing.
Yep.
So we knew that we were going to have some crossover in some sections. I don't see anything wrong with anything in there. Anybody have anything to add there?
No, it's Samantha. I just want to kind of repeat and throw as much support as I can at small, workable, I guess, micro solutions within existing infrastructure. Because I think Seth is spot on that, a new pier, it's such a long-term process, and we need solutions now. And I think that there's ways that we can fit in little things with dinghy docks, with courtesy floats for tie-up, and thinking about what do we have now? How can we kind of reallocate within what we already have?
Okay.
Good. That's good language.
Yep. Number 9, need more fueling facilities and more reasonably priced fuel, especially for commercial buses.
We were hammered at the one that we held at the Nantucket Hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, people just plopped down at Seth and I's table and fuel. These guys are going to Hyannis or Bass River or anywhere over there and getting fuel, and it's cheaper to actually run the hour over there in their boats to get fuel and then come back. Because they don't want to spend 4 times the going rate on Nantucket, and you got to line up to get it, et cetera, et cetera. So this comes up every single time, whether it's Mattocket or Nantucket Harbor.
So is this something that community wants to try to do something about?
Absolutely, Peter.
I'm just wondering how a governmental entity can affect lower the prices of a private enterprise.
Well, we can say they're price gouging. They did it when I was pumping gas here back in the 70s. There was a gas crisis. And I had them lined up down Main Street trying to get gas back in those days in the winter. And they gouged.
Actually finding another boat ramp than we do getting, harbor fuel or whoever, bring down their fuel prices.
Well, we need to have that conversation with whoever the hell we need to have a conversation, whether it's the federal government or the state or with them directly, because something's got to give here. This is insanity.
I'm not saying it's not worth putting in. I'm just saying.
I think it's a priority.
Saying it's an uphill battle, that's all.
Yeah, but I think this is a priority. Seth?
Yeah, I mean, there is a law that protects fuel prices, and if you can prove that the price isn't reasonable, then they're required to reduce it, but it is always gonna be an uphill battle because people are saying, I'm bringing gas to Nantucket, my cost is so high. I do want to hone in on this discussion we had. This came up in the Nantucket Hotel about fueling from a truck, because people were talking about how there's not a lot of alternatives to put new on the water fuel pumps, but we could arrange truck fueling. And it looks like in the document that you guys have found 2 examples of when this happens. So I think we should strongly consider that. And competition is the best way in the market to reduce prices. So if a truck is going to be a lot cheaper and everyone's going to start buying from the truck, then the in-water tanks are going to they're going to be forced to reduce their prices. So I know there's limits on where that could happen and safety and all that, but I'm not saying we have to answer it today. I'm just saying that we should look at those examples and see if that's viable.
Samantha, Dave, all right, Dave, go, and then Samantha.
Yeah, we had it set up as part of the Chapter 91 permit for Great Harbor Yacht Club to provide commercial fuel down there.
They had it at one point.
And it worked well for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I have tried to follow up, and I don't know why that has stopped. But we for all the reasons you just talked about, we had that set up, lower cost, direct for commercial, et cetera, and it worked for quite some time. So we need to follow up on why that's not working, and it's part of the Chapter 91 permit for Great Harbor Yacht Club to provide fuel. So, and I could send you a copy of that license if you'd like.
Yep, we have it. And the other way we found that communities were doing it was that they owned property on the waterfront and would license commercial dealers, and they would.
Right.
And part of that license was an agreement on what that fuel, the price could exceed by a certain number of cents, what their price was. So if you want to sell fuel from the town's facility, then you're agreeing to a certain price point. But anything possible. So what we've done, so what we'll be able to do here is Seth has voiced support for looking at trucks a little bit. So we'll look into that. We'll see what there's any barriers to doing that. And we'll look into the Great Harbor Yacht Club situation.
We had to go to Mannequin or
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah, I mean, I
State.
can't bring it over on the
Yeah.
truck, but if
You
the
can't fill up your own
town
boat from your own.
partnered with a entity
You
to
don't
have an
carry the little-
exclusive license
Small
and
boats have the little tanks, but that's different.
they set the price on that exclusive license, essentially in exchange for that exclusive license, it's an option. We just.
Exactly. Yep.
Dave, do you know is there any restriction on, or is it possible to bring a truck down to Children's Beach and do it there? Is there some kind of something on the books already that precludes that?
No, there was some discussion about that, and it did take place. you know, and it did take place, but I know there was some, there was some opposition because of the noise. The way that we did it at Great Harbor was we had certain hours early in the morning and in the evening. And, you know, we had oil spill, containment on the trucks. We had training, you know, it's certainly the way to go. The town doesn't have a facility that could be modified for the town to get into the fuel business, and I would never recommend it myself. But from pumping fuel from a town-owned property or a civilian property for that matter, if you can permit it, it just needs to get done. The cost is just prohibitive. I mean, I don't know if Mattakit would be an alternative. Some of those guys can get into Mattakit, but you know, it's a shorter run from town to Mattakit than it is from town to Hyannis.
Yikes. Well, this is, everybody labeled it as a priority that day. So it's gotta be something that we have a discussion about or look at
Okay,
heavily.
okay. Number 10, we may have already covered construction dedicated fishing pier somewhere in the Nantucket Harbor. Anybody have any thoughts on, I think you all support that idea, but is there any location or locations you want to have identified in the plan?
Not right now. We're gonna do that when we go back to the whole overall discussion.
Well, you know, something we talked about on Shab a lot is, you know, we're all, you know, eagerly awaiting the legal troubles for Petrol Landing to be settled. And for years and years that I've been on Shab, we've always talked about, wouldn't it be great, you know, if that was a place where someone could load and offload a local person, you know, scallops, whatever, as a commercial pier. You know? So, what that's worth.
Well, we're not giving up on Petrol Landing becoming a real thing.
Yeah, no, it's very encouraging.
Yeah.
It's
Just
very-
Maybe they should pump petrol at Petrol Landing.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I was just gonna bring up the fact that that's how it got its name. There, they used to deliver the fuel. They used to build boats there, sailing schools, you know, we ran a launch service from there.
I remember the launch
That
service.
was the name.
I remember the launch service.
Yeah,
The bird.
it's in my write-up. I'll get it to you.
It's staff.
Petrol.
Petrol, yeah.
I know I sound like a broken record. I love a courtesy float or courtesy tie-up spot, just because I see how well it works in Provincetown. And just anecdotally, when Provincetown built McMillan Wharf, I mean, it was built entirely for commercial purposes. It has everything you need. But they very specifically built in a couple locations where they have, you know, they have booms for offload and catch, loading on, you know, gear and whatnot. And in those spaces, there are parking spots. It's, you know, it's not parking for anyone else except for the fuel companies. And so it works really nicely. Your fishermen will come in, they'll call up the oil company, and in the amount of time that they're offloading catch or loading on gear, they're being fueled at the same time. So you have this really nice kind of courtesy tie-up system where nobody's ever there for more than 30 minutes. It works fantastic. Then they all go back to whatever other slips that their boats live in. And, you know, fueling from trucks is the norm in pretty much every other commercial fishery. My uncle owns one of the oil companies in Provincetown, and there's somebody who's entirely dedicated to it. There is extra training. It's very, very doable.
Okay, let's move past this.
But
for
if
now.
my last comment was, I would love one of the recommendations, and I'm not the person to recommend this, but I would love to see in this plan, recommend at least one spot to investigate for that kind of 30-minute commercial use.
That is going to be part of the overall discussion about wharves, piers, ramps and everything. So that's why I want to keep moving.
Okay. The next one, 11, is a big one in a way. It's to improve access to and around the ferry terminal. several different issues associated with that and better access to straight wharf, nighttime lighting, unloading, improved traffic circulation. I imagine this is all going to be tied in with the Steamship Authority rebuild and also some of the commercial development that's being talked about for that, around that same area. How do we want to handle that?
All right, Harbor Place is something I worked on for 10 years when I was, more than 10 years, when I was on the planning board. And the design that we had come up with some time ago, we're still battling Ngrid. The design that was come up with, provided we get everything, Steve has gotten everything but the Ngrid, which is right smack in the middle. Had a whole better way of dropping off, picking up, lighting, widening, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Nat Lowell is all over widening the access in front of the, obsessively. In
He'll
front
tell you
of,
the width
he'll
of
tell
the
you the
street.
width of the street and the turning radius. But everything, if that comes to fruition, the whole thing's going to be remastered to deal with it. So there's very little we can do except widening it that will make any difference right this second until we can get that last piece out of Ngrid.
So Harbor Place is a live project except for this one parcel that needs to be acquired?
Hopefully it's a live project. There are a lot of moving parts. We've been at this. I've been off the planning board for a while. We've been at this for probably 15 years, if not longer.
Mhm.
And Steve has been able to buy up the oil tanks. He's been able to buy up this, buy up this, buy up this. But it's that Ngrid piece, not the switching station down on the corner of Washington and Washington and Commercial. That stays where it is. But they just moved their fence again up towards the other building, the brick building in the back towards the harbor, and they're now having a battle over where that fence is. So Ngrid is becoming a problem because as they've moved through the last 15 years, and Dave Frederick's not there anymore, his contacts aren't there anymore. They have a whole new administration. Then we get something worked out, then there's a whole nother administration, then we get it worked out. Then there's a whole nother administration. So the people that are there now have no clue the past 15 years of conversation, but it is not off the table. Now, the other part, we did vote last year to take the corner of Easy Street and Steamboat Wharf, to take that building. They used to be Arno's, whatever it was over time, to get that building out of there, fix that corner, make it a two-way all the way out instead of two-way at the very end. And there is a whole plan for that as well. But until we could take that building and get it out of there and take that corner, we did vote to do it by ED. But that doesn't mean he's playing games with us again. And so there are plans for both of these, but there's nothing we can do until both of these plans start to go.
Okay. And then, of course, it's coming down the road at some point is the Steamship Authority improvements to that terminal. So wouldn't that need to tie into these projects?
No, whatever the steamship does, they do. They are involved with purchasing this thing by eminent domain. The steamship, the town, I thought the land bank was involved also. I think there are 3 or 4 entities that are involved in trying to scarf that piece of property. And he's just not giving it up.
Get Jesse to chime in on this.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there was an offer made between the 3.
I don't have really much to update on with that, but I think, there's been discussions about long-term, the vision would be to connect those 2 bulkheads. And so that would allow the pedestrian traffic to be separate from the vehicular traffic and allow people to just literally walk off the boat, along the water to Main Street, wheeling their suitcases or whatever. And that would, and I'm assuming that they need to look at, we all know what that's like when you get off the chaos of, taxis with waiting and people driving around aimlessly and people walking around aimlessly. So there needs to be I'm assuming the renovation is gonna analyze all of that and traffic circulation and, and so it all remains to be seen. But yeah, that parcel is I think, pretty critical. I know the town wants to round the corner. They've wanted to round the corner for a long time there. And, you know, the land bank can be a partner, you know, on the water side for sure.
Didn't you just buy Judson's?
What, Judson's, no, we don't own Judson's right now, but that's the only outlier. And you know, that's a tall building. And I think it's old, so that's another question. Could that be like, you know, utilized somewhere in the vicinity? And, you know, when they come up with a master plan, maybe I think they had talked about, I've heard them talk about needing some maybe housing. I don't know, just like, could it be worked in somewhere? Cause it is pretty tall and I don't know, you know, how movable it is too far. And I do know that it does have some history with like the Tony Sarg artist.
No, he has
So-
nothing to do with Judson's building. Tony Sark was the one on the corner. That's Arno's building. I did the research on both those buildings. He has nothing to do with Judson's building.
Linda,
Yeah,
we got to get back to it for a second to what Jack said about Straight Wharf. I think the comments that he made or read are all valid. No,
Yeah.
no lighting, no transit, no, it's a dangerous situation as far as all the people that are moved through there every day for the High Line. And the recommendations needs to be that, you know, NIR needs to make improvements there. They've made no improvements. Then in Nantucket Terminal, people stand out in the rain, you know, and they made all the improvements in Hyannis where they have covered waiting areas. They have 5 or 6 parking lots. They have all you know, all of this stuff. And we basically have nothing other than a very, very busy corner and 2 CSOs directing traffic. So I think you got to give what Jack initially said a little bit more thought and discussion. That, yeah, I know the steamship is an important part of this whole thing too, but you also got to remember that there's 4 offloading places on Martha's Vineyard to offload people and vehicles and trucks. You know, we have 1, and I don't even consider the High Line as a complete entity. So we have to give that more discussion about Straight Wharf.
Bill?
One other thing regarding with the High Line is the fact of the matter is you go to try to pick somebody up or drop somebody off at the High Line, the lot is virtually completely full. And I mean, for example, several times I'll go down 7 o'clock at night, right around now, and the entire lot is full. I mean, how many people are out and about on Main Street parking there? And essentially what happens is that I guess Nantucket Island Resorts is not enforcing that. So there is no way that you can park. So then it just adds to the congestion down there. And I mean, I don't know that we should be telling NIR how to run their business, but the fact is that this is it's created a choke point, because I think what it is all of the off-island contractors are using this as their island parking.
Only in the winter. Otherwise, they park out behind our building, the building department.
But anyhow, I think, I don't know, Jack, this is something that maybe somehow you put in there too. I mean, that whole thing creates a problem, because I mean, even at this time of year, it's at 8 o'clock when the boat comes in, it's like middle of July.
Okay.
Well, we all agree with that one.
Okay.
Peter?
Yeah, I just want to say something about what you said, Linda, about, you know, the steamship authority is just going to do what they're going to do. And that's true, but, you know, for this plan, we need to have something in there that says we're going to work with them. We're going to be in lockstep with what they're doing. We are on track, planning for whatever they're going to be doing. We need to be we just need to work together. We can't just expect the steamship authority to solve their problem and it's gonna solve ours. We need to have our plan that's gonna somehow, as you guys all say, dovetail when they do their plan. You can't expect them just to plop something down and then we're gonna adapt to it. We need to be sort of planning together, that's what I'm saying.
If they did that.
Well, we need to be on about that.
Well, it might be worthwhile talking to have Rob Brani come in here when we start talking about these piers and stuff, or Nat. Never get out of here. But, you know, Rob has the power. Nat has the mouth. So it would be a good idea to have a conversation with him as we get into the weeds of crafting that whole thing.
I'd say too, it's important to keep in the plan, just because
Yeah,
they're ultimately gonna have to get a chapter 91 permit. And chapter 91 is gonna consult the harbor plan
yeah.
when they issue that permit. So if we have something specific to those areas within there, they're gonna have to take it under consideration in getting the permits.
Correct.
I agree that we should include some kind of language in there that NIR should work to improve the situation that they do own right now. You know, who knows with National Grid, if and or when that property will become available, if and or when they will, you know, it could be another 10 years before that redevelopment happens. So
Right.
for this plan, we should say that they need to do public safety improvements.
Number 12, Mattocket, expansion of wave attenuation is needed in erosion mitigation. There was some talk about an oyster reef as a possible erosion mitigation measure.
What do you want to sink out there?
Oyster shells. Oh, Tara's are up.
Tara?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I guess it depends on location. I wasn't a part of this. I know that we are having conversations this spring about doing oyster reef work in Mattocket. Like I said, it's all location dependent and based on what each area is classified as to whether it's just gonna be like a culch situation or spat on shell, because they're very different and permitted differently as well.
Okay.
All right, and 13, determine legal status of all existing docks and institute measures to bring into compliance. We touched on this a bit. I mean, that's a matter of having the licenses and permits and somebody deciding that that's something that they want to do. You know, basically following up on anything that's not being done. And I think this is most relevant on public access kinds of things. And I'm sure
Yeah.
her section's going to talk about this.
Am I on mute right now? No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
I was just gonna say, for example, you know, I know that like dinghies are kind of all over the place at the town pier. Or I think, you know, like the racks, there's a need for more racks there. And I know that like the Brant Point Marine Chapter 91 license says that the town can put more racks in there on that beach. It says it.
Where?
And we don't have them right now, just
Where?
FYI.
What marine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And it's right next door to the harbor master. So
yeah, but didn't
On there.
the fishing guys bought it?
Still carry the chapter 91 license.
Yeah. Interesting.
Still owned by full license.
Well, that'll be interesting. No,
The license isn't tied to the owner, it's tied to
The,
the property. It
the
doesn't-
Anglers Club bought it.
It could be owned by some random guy in Japan and they would still have to
Yeah.
follow the permit.
Well, they're not really aware of their Chapter 91 permit. I've already had that discussion with the guys that bought it for the Anglers Club, and I'm going, you know, there's Chapter 91 and there's all kinds of water dependent uses on the first floor and all this other stuff that you gotta have, and you can't wipe that out? Oh,
But you'd have to amend the license.
So I think
good luck with that.
I think we talked like ad infinitum about measures to bring chapter 91 permits into or licenses into compliance, and we kind of already had the discussion in terms of legal status of existing docks. I don't know if that's exactly what we should be doing, but we should probably be doing some
Chapter
permit
91.
review to see what opportunities exist. Like just for one example that I happen to be involved with, when the town went to amend their town pier to do the wave attenuation fence that you guys are talking about, it became evident that the dinghy dock actually wasn't even licensed. And now it became licensed under that permit. So there might be permits that have unlicensed structures, or there might be licenses that have the potential to expand the use that we don't know about. And that's really just like a literature review, honestly, and we can't compel license holders to necessarily do all these things. Like if you have a license for a Chapter 91 structure that says you're allowed to have 100 slips in it and you only have 45, you're not required to have 100 unless it says you have to have 100. If it says you have to have up to 100, you could have 2 or something like that. But it's an opportunity to give people the knowledge saying like, did you know that you actually have more space in this license than you think? Would you consider expanding this for benefit both for your operation and for the public?
Liability would be humongous.
Good thought.
Okay, we
I-
got down for questions. We got 8 minutes left.
Phil? This whole section on commercial waterfront is just chock-a-block with potential initiatives. I mean, and some of them are huge.
Probably more than any
And
other.
I guess I'm sort of swimming in this all, like, who does what to whom in this? I mean, what is our role other than to just identify things to be done? What, you know, are we going to be looked at as the agent for initiating these things, or an agent for getting other organizations involved? I mean, where do you start? I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on this, but it just seems to me that a lot of these are tremendous ideas. A lot of them we see problems with permitting and all the rest of that, but this committee can't be expected to be the change agent on every one of these. I mean, how do we take this from, I mean, I see this plan as something where we're essentially giving an open door to the opportunity to discuss or do something in the next 10 years as it relates to any potential projects, and we don't want to close any doors prematurely, and that's all good stuff. But then how do all of these good ideas go to the next step?
Well, the last time there was a separate implementation group.
Right, so we're just creating the plan, we're updating it.
Yeah.
And the plan will be, there's the old plan, there's the new plan, we're the committee that's doing that. Beyond that, like Linda said, there'll be an implementation committee that may or may not have some of us on it. And then that committee will go to various entities that have been identified for that thing and lean on them and say, hey, do this. And a matrix will be created, the matrix that Dave went through for the 2009 plan. And it'll be an action item matrix, and there'll be columns for nothing's going on, in progress, completed, like that.
So is our job, do you think, to identify who in our minds for each of these things might be the relevant party, do you think?
We could, we didn't,
So
but
that's
we
what
could.
the implementation committee decides.
We can give them a guideline.
I mean, you can certainly give them a guideline. I would ultimately say it's not even necessarily the implementation committee, because that's there. I would say it's a plan that's being created that the select board's tasked with implementing. And if they decide to form a committee to do it, so be it. If not, it's on their shoulders.
Yeah, we can suggest what the path is for
Right.
implementation.
They're not.
It's just that we're not the implementation group.
Right.
They actually
That's
carry that
Or
forward.
they may assign it to a department, they may assign it to Shaq, who knows?
But maybe when we've got it all done, this process done, then we go back through it and say, this one is for this department, this one's for this entity, because then we'll have it in front of us.
Yeah. we can make those suggestions.
Yeah,
And then we can, as a group or individually, or if we get on if there's an implementation group, then a lot of us could get on there so we can keep going kind of thing.
In the previous plan, it was, there were recommendations as to who would be the
Yeah.
active entities, yeah.
Okay, so just sort of keep that in your head.
There was just one on that, on the questions at the bottom, there's really only one I'd want to talk about, and that was, is there an issue with the prohibition on new docks? We heard that there was maybe a need for some clarification of language.
Yeah,
No,
that came from the very first plan. I was
Yeah,
aware of that.
not as,
and we
not as
thought,
far as I'm concerned. It's been upheld in court. It's worked well. It did everything that we wanted it to do to protect shellfish beds and shading, et cetera, navigation, moorings. We went through a three-year prohibition periods.
Yeah,
And the state finally said, if what you want, or a moratorium period, and then the state said, if what you want is a prohibition, pass a prohibition. We did. I think it's working fine.
okay, so there's no issue with it?
My,
From,
well,
from my perspective, no. Emily may have a different opinion.
is that Emily or Emily?
Jesse, trying to speak up.
that's me. Yeah, so my concern is not with the prohibition, it's with the allowance of commercial and sort of what the definition of commercial is. Because like I said, I've seen a dock, which I'm not sure I would characterize as commercial, knowing what I know. And so I wanted to like understand how commercial is defined, I guess.
Clearly defined in the bylaw.
Yeah. Emily, Emily,
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually raising my hand about something completely different, but I can ask that question afterwards. Gosh, what year was it? It was 1 or 2 years ago now. I had worked on some amendments to the bylaw with staff at Plus to kind of clean it up, the prohibition in the bylaw for the residential docks and piers, and also to add some additional language that basically incorporated a requirement for the ZBA if it was discussing any proposals before it to get some formal recommendation from the Natural Resources Department to just make sure that there was actually communication among the two entities on that. So there were some changes that were made to it just in recent years. I actually would echo Jesse's interest in sort of revisiting that, but I think I haven't looked at the definition of commercial in a while myself, so I'm happy to do that and then come back with more questions on that if I have them later. But I've actually had the same question and concern that Jesse does in the past.
Yeah, just quickly, Madam Chair, I do too, and my concern is actually going the other way, that we might be prohibiting things that we want because they don't fall under the commercial aspect. Like Dave, your whole idea of a recreational fishing pier, that's probably not allowed because it's not considered a commercial use, it's a recreational use. If
No,
it was
it's a public.
if it was part of it might be if it was part of a facility that had other amenities there, but if it was just a standalone recreational fishing pier, that's probably not considered a commercial use.
well, hold on, guys, hold on.
Use.
Under the bylaw, under state law and under the bylaw, there are exceptions under the zoning code for municipal uses. So we can always get away with stuff that you or I couldn't on our waterfront property.
As long
Because
as it
town
benefits
is
the
exempt
public.
for a public purpose.
As long as it benefits the public.
And I think if I could just hop in, that's part of at least what my concern is, and maybe this is where Jesse's coming from as well, but is there something that would be commercial on a smaller, more private scale, but still be commercial that wouldn't necessarily benefit the public that would be allowed to be constructed? Or,
the
for
developer.
example, for a private club, let's just say, or so I just, that's sort of where my thoughts on that come from.
All right, we have like 2 minutes left here, guys.
I think we're over time, actually.
Oh, 2 minutes overtime.
Can I ask one real quick question that maybe Jeff can answer? It just sort of
Yeah.
seemed like a
appropriate place to ask. I just had noticed on the select board's agenda that there's a report on Nantucket and Mattocket Harbor Plan Management, and I just wondered if you could just speak to what that will be.
It's not on the harbor plan. There was some question raised by Malcolm McNabb about pump outs and how that operates and initiatives for water quality related to boating that came up at a select board meeting recently. So they have asked us to give an update on pump outs from the 2023 season.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, any other questions, now that we're down to the bottom? So we guess,
When's the next meeting?
what's today's
In
date?
2 weeks, huh?
That's a good question. So 2 weeks out is President's Day.
So I had down the 26th.
Six.
Actually had us down our next meeting as the 12th. I had down the 12th and the 26th of February, the 22nd of March. It's a weird date. And then April 8th and April 22nd. I had kind of 2 weeks through there. But President's Day is the 19th.
And school vacation here for those with kids is the 26th.
That is the 26th.
You
Okay.
guys off island are the week before us, but Nantucket's a week after you guys go.
So we're either meeting next week or March 4th, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, I do think we have quite a bit to still go through, so I don't know if people have time next week.
I have the space booked for the 12th.
I can meet next week.
Because you've already,
Let's keep moving.
yeah, you've already sent us the administration and coordination piece. Probably take us the whole time to do that.
Right, so we could do the 12th if that works for most.
Okay,
That gets us back on the schedule for that I booked the room. I'll send around the schedule that I booked the room to everybody. From
Is it, Jeff, is there time for public notice for next week?
Yeah, we have to have it posted by Thursday. We got a lot of time.
And Kim, can
Yep.
you, after every meeting, it'd help a lot if you would just, send the link or whatever you send to Haley.
Yep.
On Shab, all I do is say, hey, we just had our meeting and then she posts it. So that I don't have to track you down and try and do it, and so that it's always there. It'd be great.
Yep, that sounds good. I can do that.
Thank you.
So yeah, we'll plan on the 12th. And thanks everyone for putting in so much time on all this. I think we're really talking about a lot of useful things.
all right. I'm
Motion
gonna,
to adjourn.
Phil made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Peter seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Peter,
All right.
Phil,
Aye.
Emily,
Hi.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Roberto,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
The chair is out at 2:35. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I keep forgetting your